God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me. The weekend is here, and I've got what I think is going to be a short video for you all. Before we get to the weekend, I plan on unplugging, kicking up my heels, and taking a good long relax this weekend. And I hope that you all have some fun times planned this weekend. I have here a couple of stories that make me want to homeschool my kids. Don't have any yet, planning on it in the future. And let me just tell you what my thoughts have been on homeschool, summed up in a couple of sentences. When I was young, I thought homeschooling was stupid. As I got a little bit older, and I would say in college is when I really reasoned this through, homeschooling can be as educationally effective as structured education. And by structured education, I mean both public and private. These days, though, I see headlines like this one and like the other one that we're going to see in a couple moments, and I want my children to never see the building that can be called a public school ever. This one from Fox News. Middle school students were given an anti-gun social studies assignment. This took place in Hampton Middle School in Georgia, and the problem statement for the assignment was, "You are trying to persuade lawmakers to have stricter gun laws to help prevent another school shooting from taking place. For this assignment, you are writing a letter to the lawmakers of the United States. The purpose of this letter is to pressure lawmakers to have stricter gun laws in the United States." Now, I have a couple of questions that I wish I could ask. The first, what is the objective of the assignment? What is the teacher trying to teach the students? I'll let you answer that question for yourself. My real question is, why not ask the students to research the issue and write a hypothetical letter to Congress based on their findings? Why restrict the prompt to one side of the argument? Why not allow students to formulate their own arguments based on the evidence that they are able to find with a little bit of research time? I think this would be a much more constructive and a much more educational exercise than saying, here is your opinion, write about it. Now, certainly, giving someone an opinion to write or to research about can be useful, specifically if you know that that person has the opposite opinion. For instance, it's very useful for me to research the kind of gun control proposals that are being presented and the reasoning behind those proposals. Because I'm a Second Amendment gun rights advocate, I've styled myself as a gun rights radical in the past. And it's important to know both sides of the argument. It helps you to rationalize your opinion and to understand what you're going to be arguing against. And so when it comes to this assignment, I have to conclude that one of two mindsets caused this assignment to be given as it is. Either the teacher lacks any creativity in assigning thought-provoking assignments like this, or the teacher is pushing an agenda. And when it comes to the left and their agenda, specifically their agenda on gun control, I'm very, very pessimistic. As you may have noticed when I talked about the Cats Are Guns video last week, it took me a little bit to begin to wonder to myself if this person wasn't pushing an agenda. But that's not all that I have to talk about today. This from the Patriot Post. I didn't understand this title very well, but suffice it to say, they're talking about toxic masculinity. And I have to say I love this picture because it's from one of my favorite John Wayne movies of all time. You get 5 bonus points if you can name the movie in the comment section. Several states have laws in place requiring the chemical castration of men convicted in violent sex crimes. This has nothing to do with what I want to talk about, skipping. Universities there have been toxic masculinity talks, classes, discussions, speakers that are appearing at universities all across the country. And you know that it's coming for your kids. You know that it's coming at younger and younger kids. Social Marxists are not happy with convincing the numbers of people that they are able to convince at college. Because once students get to college, and many of them are able to think for themselves, and by then it's too late for these social scientists. So you can be sure that they're bringing this crap to our schools. They're bringing this garbage to your public schools, schools that your children are going to. I'm confident in saying this because the sexual deviance has already made its way to our public schools. Especially this gender non-conforming garbage. The stuff that runs totally counter to biology. All of the stuff that runs totally counter to biology. That is making its way to school, so you can bet that discussions about toxic masculinity and the demasculinizing of children is on its way to our public schools. And I don't want my kid to be involved in that kind of teaching. Now, the Patriot Post says here that the term toxic masculinity has made its way to Urban Dictionary. Just out of curiosity, I went and looked up the definition, and I didn't think that it was that disagreeable. The definition that they offer is a social science term that describes narrow representative types of ideas about the male gender role, that defines masculinity as exaggerated masculine traits, like being violent, unemotional, sexually aggressive, and so forth. Also suggests that men who act too emotional or aren't violent enough or don't do all of the things that quote-unquote real men do can get their quote-unquote man card taken away. They also offered this line, which is part of the reason why I think it's not that disagreeable of a definition. Many people confuse the difference between masculinity and toxic masculinity. One can be masculine without having toxic masculinity. And I thought that was a quite reasonable definition to have for the term toxic masculinity. What gets lumped in with toxic masculinity, however, is, where do they say? They list a whole lot of things here. Where did it go? Male privilege, here it is. Male privilege, patriarchy, the language of dominance, rape culture, pornography, machismo, and other topics. The campus center, this is the Duke University toxic masculinity stuff. Machismo. What do you think of when you think of machismo? When I think of that machismo, I think of, for instance, characters. Muscle-bound, usually honorable, usually very tough, usually very protective, defender-type men from stories from legend and other things like that. Chuck Norris is a machismo character. Very tough, very strong, perhaps Chuck Norris could be called a terrific exaggeration of manliness. The machismo character, I think, comes out in characters like Braum from League of Legends, or characters like I can't remember his last name, but it's Alex, the big muscle-bound guy from Full Metal Alchemist. These are machismo characters. But apparently machismo is toxic masculinity. And it's the kind of... it's manliness in the terms of being self-reliant, being strong enough to handle your own problems, being strong enough to not have to lean on people around you for help. That kind of machismo gets lumped in to toxic masculinity in university discussions. And you know that it's coming to our public schools. And I don't want my kids to be involved in that kind of teaching. That's going to do it for this video. Short, sweet, and to the point. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications if you want to see more content like this. Our next report is coming on Monday, so I hope that you'll tune in. Until then, have a good night, have a great weekend, and God bless.